Rosh Chodesh Kislev, which means Hanukkah is coming up, so we'll be discussing some Inyani Hanukkah in the near future, but today we'll focus on Rosh Chodesh and to revisit some laws of Yala v'Yavo. So let's go back to the basics and we'll take it from there. So we all know that the Gemara learns out in Brachas, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, that we say, or Bnei Ashkenaz say every night in Ma'ariv. Now the Gemara learns out, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, that there's a special mitzvah to mention Me'ein HaMa'orah. There's a special mitzvah in our davening to mention the uniqueness of the day. So on Shabbos we mention Shabbos, on Yantiv we mention Yantiv, on Rosh Chodesh we mention Rosh Chodesh.
So is this between the brachas for Shema and the Shmona Esrei?
Well, specifically Shmona Esrei we're talking about. When we talk about Tefillah,
you're talking about the... Okay.
We're not talking about Tefillah as in Lashem Neyadam, but Tefillah as in Shmona Esrei. So in Shmona Esrei we have a special mention, in this case of Yala v'Yavo or Ritzei in benching, etc. So there's a halacha we have to mention Yala v'Yavo, and the halacha is for all three prayers, Shacharis, Mincha, Ma'ariv, we insert the phrase Yala v'Yavo, as well as during our Berkas Hamazon, during our benching. So the question is, what happens if one leaves out Yala v'Yavo by mistake, by accident? They leave out Yala v'Yavo during Shmona Esrei. Must one go back and repeat the Shmona Esrei? If you remember, after you've finished davening, and now you realize it's Rosh Chodesh today, I forgot Yala v'Yavo. Must I go back? So last night began Rosh Chodesh. So let's say you forgot Yala v'Yavo at night. So the Gemara tells us in the fourth parak in Brachas, if you forget Yala v'Yavo during Ma'ariv, and that would include tonight, Sunday night, even a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, the Gemara tells us one need not repeat the Shmona Esrei. Why not? So the Gemara tells us because of Ein Makadeshin Es HaChodesh B'Layla. Since Basin doesn't meet at night, and therefore the Gemara tells us one need not go back if they forgot Yala v'Yavo, which is an interesting question. Tosfos says the Gemara could have gave a more simple answer. Why don't we have to go back if we forget Yala v'Yavo at night? Which actually, which is, we know there's a discussion in the Gemara and Brachas as well. Who instituted Tefillah? So either it's Keneged the Karbanos, corresponding to the sacrifices. We have a morning sacrifice for Shacharis, an afternoon sacrifice for Mincha, and then we have Ma'ariv, the leftover limbs and fats. And the other opinion is it was Avram did Shacharis, Yitzchak Mincha, and Yaakov Ma'ariv. And interesting, in the Sefer Karasa L'Shabbos, I only point out an easy way to remember it is, if you look at the second letter of each of the names, that tells you about the Tefillah. Avraham, what's the second letter? Beis, Boker. Yitzchak, Sadi, Saharayim, afternoon. Really nice. And Ayin, Yaakov, Aravis, Erev. And it's not the first letter, but the second, because it's behind them. It's the essence of because they're not all three of the same Tefillahs. Each one had their own motif, which is not for now. So there's a discussion who instituted Tefillah, but the Gemara later on tells us in the way we paskin, L'halacha, Tefillah's Aravis Rishus. In fact, that's this week's parsha. We're going to read Vayetze. Why was Yaakov's Tefillah discriminated against? That we'll have to talk about another time. But the way we paskin is Tefillah's Aravis is a Rishus. Whether Rishus means optional or not is a separate discussion, and whether today it might not be optional anymore. But bottom line, we have to daven Ma'ariv today the same way we daven Shacharis and Mincha, but fundamentally, it's only labeled as an optional tefillah. We've taken it upon ourselves to do it. So the Tosfos asked in Brachas, why does Gemara have to give us a reason? If you forget Yala v'Yavo and Ma'ariv, you don't have to go back because Basin doesn't meet at night. Just say simply, Tefillah's Aravis Rishus. If I didn't have to daven Ma'ariv in the first place, I certainly don't have to go back if I forgot Yala v'Yavo. Hence, Tosfos concludes that no, Tefillah's Aravis Rishus doesn't mean optional. it means a lower level obligation. Compared to Shacharis and Mincha, there are certain times if you have a pressing need, you might be exempt from Ma'ariv, but not exempt from Shacharis and Mincha, but really doesn't mean exempt. And hence, if you forget Yalav Yavel, normally a Ma'ariv you do have to go back. It's not really a Rishus. But therefore the Gemara had to come on to another reason of Ein Mekadosh HaChodesh. That reason is all encompassing, while Tfilas Aris Rishus isn't so simple. But either way, the Allah, after all said and done, if you get Yalav Yavel last night or tonight, you do not repeat Shemona Esrei. What about Shacharis and Mincha? So the simple reading is that yes, if one forgets Yalav Yavel and Shacharis this morning, or at Mincha this afternoon, one would have to go back and repeat Shemona Esrei. The question is why? Why do you have to go back? It's a given you have to go back. Why? Well, the question is, how do we view a Shemona Esrei on Rosh Chodesh without Yalav Yavel? How do we view the Shemona Esrei? Do I basically fulfill my mitzvah of tefillah? I have a mitzvah every day of tefillah, except I'm lacking in my special mitzvah on Rosh Chodesh of the Chiyuv Haskara. There's a special mitzvah on Rosh Chodesh to mention Rosh Chodesh as we do in Yalav Yavel. Is that why I have to go back? And since Chazal said I can't just say Yalav Yavel in a vacuum, I can't just, after davening, just plug in Yalav Yavel, that's why I have to go back. Well, fundamentally, I fulfill my mitzvah of tefillah. It's out Rosh Chodesh, the special Chiyuv Haskara, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, that's why I have to go back. Well, no. Do I say a Yalav Yavel Shemona Esrei without a Yalav Yavel is a zero? It's like I haven't davened Shacharis, I haven't davened Mincha. My nafkamina, what's the difference why I have to go back? If I have to go back, what's the difference if it's a zero or it's because I got credit for davening? The bottom line is if I forgot Yalav Yavel, I have to go back and repeat Shemona Esrei. My nafkamina, the big practical difference would be on Sunday night. Not Sunday night, this week, Monday night. Rosh Chodesh is today and Monday. So one forget Mincha tomorrow afternoon, Monday afternoon, you daven Mincha, and you leave out Yalav Yavel. So if you didn't daven Mincha at all, and then you remember and it's Monday night, everyone agrees you have to daven Mincha twice. What happens if you daven Mincha tomorrow afternoon, and you forgot Yalav Yavel, and then the time you realize Rosh Chodesh was over. It was Monday night already. Do I have to repeat Shemona Esrei? So it depends. If you assume, like the first way, like Rabbeinu Yehuda, that I really fulfill my mitzvah of tefillah, I'm just lacking in my special mention of Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is over. It's too late for me to make that up. And I fulfilled my davening. Well, there's nothing to gain by repeating another Shemona Esrei. Hence, I would not go back. I mean, I don't repeat a second Shemona Esrei. But if you assume Shemona Esrei without Yalav Yavel is a nothing, it's like I didn't daven Mincha, so everyone agrees if you didn't daven Mincha, then of course you have to daven. It's like any other day of the week. If you miss a tefillah, you have to repeat it. So that'd be the nafkamina. How do we paskin? Halacha l'maisa, you forget Yalav Yavel on Mincha tomorrow afternoon, and you remember, and it's already Rosh Chodesh is over. It's nighttime. So it comes out. It's a sveika dedina. It's not clear how we paskin. So the Mishnah Brura tells us to make the following tanai stipulation. He says because it comes out. It's a machlokes, the Bali Tosfos, Rabbeinu Yehuda versus let's say the Rif. So according to the Rabbeinu Yehuda, there's no point in davening over again. You're not accomplishing anything. You already fulfilled your mitzvah mincha, and you can't make up Rosh Chodesh. It's over. According to the Rif, you haven't even davened mincha yet, so you have to. So what do? You make the following tonight. You say, if the halacha is like Rabbeinu Yehuda, so then I'm davening an extra tefillah. A tefillah, let this count as a tefillah nedava. Like we have a karban nedava, sometimes you could bring an extra free will offering. So too, under special situations, we don't usually encourage it, but in a doubt in halacha we do, have in mind this should count as an extra tefillah nedava. And if the halacha is like the rush, like the Rif, that I have to, so this counts as my mincha. So you make so the halacha l'maisa, you daven a second Shemona Esrei. However, with the following tanai, if the halacha is like the Rif, then this counts as my chiyuv. It's a chiyuv tashlumin. I'm making up my mincha. If the Rachas like Rabbi Yehuda, so then it's just counted as a Tfilas Nadava. That's what the Mishnah Berurah brings down. That'd be one major nafkamina is you forget Yalav Yavel, the last mincha of Rosh Chodesh, and you remember after Rosh Chodesh is over, do I have to repeat two Shemona Esrei Amayrav? Another nafkamina would be as follows. Let's say this morning someone daven Shacharis, and they forget Yalav. There's so much going on today, Global Learning Day, they're thinking about the Sefer Torah ceremony, they're not focusing on the Yalav Yavel, and they forget about it. And then they remember after they finished Shemona Esrei, and now they want to know, do they have to go back and repeat Shemona Esrei? So the Magen Avraham has a big chiddush lahalacha. The Magen Avraham writes, and the Rav Salvation will even have a bigger chiddush, but we'll start off with the smaller chiddush. The Magen Avraham writes that if one forgets Yalav Yavel at Shacharis, and they're ready, let's say they remember 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they daven Shacharis, they daven Musaf, and then they realize they're about to daven Mincha, and they realize they forgot to say Yalav Yavel. Maybe they forgot Hallel, it's a separate issue, but they forgot, they could still make that up. But they forgot Yalav Yavel at Shacharis, they're about to daven Mincha. So the Magen Avraham writes that if one remembers a Mincha time after they're ready to daven Musaf, one would not have to go back and repeat the Shemona Esrei. So the question is, why not? What does davening Musaf have to do with Shacharis? Musaf l'chud, Shacharis l'chud. The Magen Avraham says, if you remember right away, you repeat. Right after you finish Shacharis, you repeat. If you remember after you daven Musaf, you don't have to go back. What's that based on? So what opinion is the Magen Avraham working with? Rabbeinu Yehuda or the Rif? So the Magen Avraham is clearly following the opinion of Rabbeinu Yehuda. Because according to the Rif, it's like you didn't daven Shacharis. So no one would say, you know what, if you miss Shacharis today, just daven Musaf and we'll call it even. That's ridiculous. No one says that. The Shacharis and Musaf have nothing to do with one another. So Magen Avraham is clearly working with Rabbeinu Yehuda that really I fulfilled my mitzvah of Shacharis already. What am I lacking? My Chiyav Haskara. So that's what Musaf is all about. Musaf is only, you have an exclusive Shemona Esrei Musaf about Rosh Chodesh. So since you're davening Musaf samach close to Shacharis, so hence b'di'evet the Magen Avraham, you could be Yotzei, you don't have to go back and repeat the Yalav Yavel. So therefore, according to the Magen Avraham, if you forgot right after Shacharis and you remembered, one should go back. Comes along with Selevan and wants to say a bigger chiddush. He wants to say that if someone forgets Yalav Yavel and Shacharis even before Musaf, they shouldn't go back. Why not? Because this whole halacha, the Magen Avraham agrees, once you daven Musaf, you got your mitzvah. It's only a din lechatchil. What's the best thing now? I already blew it. I forgot Yalav Yavel this morning. So I have two options. I either go back and repeat Shemona Esrei with the Yalav Yavel, or I could wait until I daven Musaf. So the Rav points out, based on we know the Ramah, the Ramah writes, we don't need the Ramah, we know on our own. Today we don't have Kavanah anyway, so we'd be sitting there davening over and over again because the second time won't be better than the first, the third won't be better than the second. Mm-hmm. So we try to minimize our tefillah today. So therefore, since anyway, b'di'evet, everyone agrees, once you daven Musaf, you're Yotzei, to put yourself in another. So every morning we have to daven 3 times a day. We have no choice. But if I don't have to, if b'di'evet I'm Yotzei anyway, once I daven Musaf, so even l'chatchila, it's better to wait until after Musaf and then be Yotzei. So what I do is, someone comes to me after Shacharit and says they forgot to daven Yalav Yavel. So I tell them, I can't tell you now. Come to me later after you daven Musaf. Then I tell them after Musaf, it's okay. So
that's how you paskin? Okay.
So basically I'm following the Rev sheet to that. I'm saying,
why don't you say, be explicitly what you just told us, that you want to cut down on unnecessary tefillos?
No, but I'm not giving the reason. They're asking me why. I'm just giving them the bottom line halacha. So therefore, I want them to come back and ask me after Musaf. Then I could tell them, sir, they don't have to go back. Basically, but basically, I'm saying, I think most posts can probably go with the Magen Avraham.
Oh, I see. So it makes b'di'evet anyway.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm going with, I'm relying on, the Rav is lechatchilas, but everyone agrees once you daven Musaf, and since I think the Rav's argument is very compelling. So why the person's not going to have kavanah anyway? So why have him daven a second Shemona Esrei? I don't have to tell him explicitly. He doesn't know the question. He'll come back to me later, and I'll tell him with certainty the answer is no.
Right. Okay. Good. But in your sense, why can't we say another reason for to say l'chatchila you don't repeat a shachris even before them, because why can't you just take the principle safek bracha lahakil, and someone else is just a lot of bracha.
It's not a suffix, it's a vaday. The halacha is if you forget, everyone agrees if you forget, for shacharis and mincha, if you forget yalo v'yavo, you have to go back. It's not a suffix. The suffix is why you have to go back. So then there are a couple in a normal case, everyone agrees you should go back. So for instance, something to do with shacharis. Let's say you forgot to daven musaf, and let's say you daven mincha.
Yes.
And so let's say you realize this afternoon that there was Rosh Chodesh, you didn't daven Hallel, you didn't mention Rosh Chodesh, you didn't do anything.
Okay. Yeah.
So now it's mincha time. So what do you daven first? Do you daven musaf first or mincha?
I would think musaf, because musaf and then mincha, because they're both in their time. Mincha you can do in the evening, musaf you can do any time. So why not do them in their proper order, musaf, mincha?
So the Gemara tells us you daven mincha before musaf. Well, it's actually a machloket in the Gemara, but we daven mincha before musaf because of the famous principle while you're putting on talis before tefillin. Tadir v'she'enu tadir kodim. If you have a conflict between mincha and musaf, all things being equal, you go with mincha.
Yes.
So of course the halacha is if you're davening with tzibur, then you never daven mincha before musaf because it's too confusing to the hamonam, and they'll say, you know what? Last week I remember davening mincha before musaf.
Okay.
So it must mean I could probably daven mincha in the morning also, because I daven musaf in the morning. They'll come up whatever cheshbon they'll come up with.
Yeah.
But if you're davening as part of a tzibur, we never switch the order.
Yeah.
But al pi halacha, working the straight halachic principles, we daven mincha before musaf. So let's say over here you didn't daven musaf yet. So the halacha is, let's say you did daven mincha first and you forgot yalo v'yavo, but then you're going to go straight into musaf. So there's nothing to do. It's not shacharis. It's better than mincha. Shacharis and mincha are equal. The only reason why shacharis has an advantage is that if you're going to be davening,
there's a backup.
You have musaf as a backup. So I'm assuming you're davening musaf right after. If you're not davening musaf that day, you have to go back for shacharis also. So there's no difference. The only difference in shacharis and mincha is usually we daven musaf right after shacharis.
Right.
But if you're going to daven mincha, if you're going to daven musaf after mincha, so the halacha would apply the same way. If you forgot yalo v'yavo at mincha, then you could be yotze on your musaf after mincha. I'm just pointing out it's not limited to a shacharis or a mincha. Another nafkamina would be, let's say you went to shul, you daven mincha Rosh Chodesh, you had an early mincha minyan, and you left out yalo v'yavo, and now you're home. I can't believe I forgot yalo v'yavo. But there's also a 5 o'clock mincha minyan. Do you have to go back for another mincha minyan, or could I just daven at home? So first let me point out, of course, assuming this question is assuming you want to daven tefillah b'tzibur. The question is, if you're makpid on tefillah b'tzibur, would you have to daven mincha again? You had a shaila. Would you have to go back? Of course, you'd have to daven mincha again. Exactly. According to Rabbi Yehuda, when you don't say tefillah b'tzibur, but I fulfill my mitzvah mincha, so I don't have to just daven b'yechidus, because I already fulfilled my mitzvah. I'm only doing it for yalo v'yavo. According to the Rif, if I want to fulfill tefillah b'tzibur, I have to go back and repeat.